Hello, my friends. It's been a while since I made a talking video. I've made a couple singing ones, but as I've been posting about just, life and stuff, several of you have been asking me what I'm talking about when I mention my Achilles journey. Um, and I don't really explain it to people because I think it's boring information. But so many people have been asking that I was going to post about it on my blog, but then when I wrote the whole thing down, it was way too long to post on a blog. So I decided I would make a video of myself reading the story so that those of you who are interested in knowing the whole saga of my Achilles and now more than my Achilles can know. And if you're not interested in knowing that story, which I would definitely understand, do not watch this video because that's all that it's going to be about. And I'm not expecting to get very many views, but I just figured this was an easier way for those of you who have been asking to know what's going on, what has happened, and what's going on now. I'm going to read it to you from my phone because I already typed it all out and then I won't forget. So this is like a different kind of story time with me. Okay? So here we go. Here goes. Some of you have been asking about my leg and the journey I've been on with it, so I decided to write it out for anyone interested. I'm not sure why this part of my life would interest anyone, but maybe writing it out will help me in some way anyway. It's kind of a long story, but here goes. June will be 4 years. Seems strange that it's been that long, but also it feels like it has been much longer in many ways. I used to be a super active person. I played a lot of sports, hiked, camps, did adventure camps, you name it. A large portion of my life and time was dedicated to martial arts. I know it sounds nerdy, but I loved it. And I was pretty decent. I trained, competed, and taught. My community there was like a family. When all this started, I had just earned a pretty big promotion in terms of ranking that I worked really hard for, and I was taking on a mentoring role for some of the students. I was also starting to teach women's self-defense classes for women in our community. I loved it, and it kept me in really healthy shape, which I loved too. 4 years ago, I started feeling pain in my Achilles. I didn't think anything of it at first because martial arts and random pain kind of go hand in hand and you just sort of learn to ignore it. But it wouldn't go away. It was dull at first, but at its height, it would send sharp shooting pains up my leg. Nowadays, I don't even know how to describe it anymore because it's such a familiar pain to me that it just seems normal. One day I was examining it and realized there was a bump on my Achilles. That did not seem like a positive thing. But I was 2 weeks away from going to the adventure camp I mentioned, and I was not about to miss it. A week on the American River with high school kids I worked with and other staff, whitewater rafting, rock climbing, canyoneering, sleeping on a mat under the stars. Like, who would give that up? So I decided I'd get it checked after the trip. It was so much fun. I am so glad I went. That was the last time I got to go to that camp. With the exception of a knee injury I sustained on canyoneering day, it was a blast. But it definitely hurt. I realized partway through the trip that I definitely needed to get my leg checked. Normally I avoid doctors, but I knew I had to stop avoiding this. When we got home, I made an appointment. Now, from here on out, I'm going to attempt to explain all of the things various doctors and other medical professionals have told me. I am not, however, an MD, DPT, PA, PT, therapy aide, or specialist of any kind. Some of the many people I've seen. So please do not expect me to know the medical lingo. I've given up on that. First up was my PA. She has actually been one of the more knowledgeable and helpful people along this journey. She has done her absolute best to point me in the right direction along the way. Her diagnosis was Achilles tendonitis, a bad case. She ordered physical therapy as the first step on this journey. Let me take a brief moment to say that one of the problems this whole time is that I cannot pinpoint a moment where I injured my Achilles. Or my foot, but that's later in the story. This seems to be an issue for most of the medical professionals I've seen. In hindsight, I kind of wish I'd made up an origin story. Like, maybe I could have done some research and come up with a plausible injury, but that would have been a lie, and that's not who I am. So, alas, I remain a mystery. Physical therapy place number 1 was not great. I will not put the name because I'm not interested in making anyone other than myself look bad. I'm sure the guy was doing his best, but it was evident from day one that he didn't take me seriously, and he was probably going to do the minimum. Needless to say, It did not help. I wish I'd learned back then to advocate for myself, though. I'm still not good at that. He was, unfortunately, not going to be the only person who wouldn't listen to me. So, back to my PA I went. Her next step was to send me to an orthopedic surgeon to get his opinion. Again, not going to use a name here. He ordered an MRI and put me in a walking boot. The MRI essentially showed that my PA was right, and also that I had a lot of swelling around my Achilles and some other tendons on the side of my feet. No, I don't know their names. It showed tiny tears, micro tears, that were trying to heal. He told me that my Achilles was similar to a rope, and every time I stood up, I was snapping tiny hairs on the rope. Very comforting. I inquired about the bump on my Achilles. I was assuming scar tissue, but wasn't sure. And he was basically like, bump? I don't know, doesn't matter. Those were not his actual words, but that's what I heard. So in total, he kept me in the boot for over 2 months. Post-boot, I was sent to a second round of physical therapy. New place. I should note that the boot made the sharp shooting pains stop, so that part was a win. Physical therapy place number 2 was great, actually. Nice people. My therapist there was funny and kind. We spent most of the time exchanging sarcasm, which I appreciated. He listened to me more than some of the others had. I think he genuinely wanted to help. In total, I would end up having physical therapy here twice a week for 5 months. I liked them all. I even got to go to a fundraiser dinner with them. Me and a couple tables full of physical therapists. Did I belong there? No, but I had a blast and I got cake. This place was the first time I started making some actual progress. I went from not being able to balance on one foot to being able to balance on a foam mat type of thing. I could hop up onto a step and jog a little bit. It still hurt, but it wasn't as bad. This guy also, towards the end, started to listen to my inquiries about the bump. This led to my introduction to a very painful practice of using a piece of metal or hard plastic to scrape my tendon into submission. This is my version of what they're doing. It's called Graston or something like that, and it's actually legit, and I think it's really helped a lot. But it's very painful. This is a pain I'm not sure how to describe. I mean, I think it kind of speaks for itself. Imagine you have an injured tendon, a big tendon that's close to the surface. Now imagine someone takes the dull end of a butter knife and scrapes it against the injured portion of your tendon, repeatedly, with force, for several minutes, no matter how much you wriggle around in pain. Got that image? Enough said, right? I prided myself on not making the weird pain noises some of the other patients made. I just tried to breathe or laugh. One day I cried. Embarrassing, I know, but come on, it hurt. Eventually, we hit a plateau here. This physical therapist told me I would heal completely eventually. Just keep doing the exercises. He also recommended I consider a PRP injection. This was the 3rd time this procedure had been recommended, so I decided to look into it, and I was sent back to the orthopedic surgeon. This is not my favorite part of the story. PRP stands for platelet-rich plasma. This is one of the few medical terms I remember. The idea is that they inject your own platelets into your injured tendon to try and encourage and speed up healing. My orthopedic surgeon told me with extreme confidence that it would work. It would absolutely cause my Achilles to heal. I did research. It seemed extremely painful. It was hard to find research about the effects on the Achilles specifically, but what I could find looked good. This had already been recommended by my PA, the surgeon, and the second physical therapist, so I decided to go for it. This doctor told me I could drive myself there and back and didn't need to bring anyone with me. Thank the Lord. I did not listen to him, literally. I know my body. I knew I needed someone with me. So, my best friend Shalini came with. She likes medical things, and I knew she'd have my back and not be freaked out. So here's the process as best I can explain it. In essence, they draw your blood, spin it or something to get the platelets, put the stuff in a giant syringe, and inject it into the injured area. Simple, right? Wrong. Here's what happened. First, the blood drawing. I tried to tell them I am difficult to get blood out of, but they didn't believe me. 8 attempts later, 6 in my arms and hands and 2 in my feet, they finally drew enough blood. That didn't really bother me. Small needles were no big deal. But the real kicker was when they came back in to do the procedure. What I didn't mention is the fact that you can't take any pain medication for 2 weeks before the procedure. And they do not numb you. No numbing. None. And no pain medicine. So, with no numbing or pain medicine in my system, they had me lie on my stomach while they took the aforementioned giant syringe and inserted the needle directly into my injured tendon. I really can't even describe this one, guys. I've never felt a pain like it. And not only did he stick the fat needle in and start injecting that stuff, he also moved the needle around in there to really get it spread around. I remember excruciating pain, followed by Shalini holding my head up and yelling at me to wake up. Yep, I fainted. In my defense, I told them I would faint. And shockingly, they didn't believe me. That's how my body deals with extreme pain, always has. The problem is that I was face down on a pillow covered in plastic. Thankfully, my faithful friend was sitting by my head and rescued me from suffocating. Quite a sight, I'm sure. She told me in the car that when they were injecting my tendon, it looked like a cannoli. Probably also another interesting sight. Once I woke up enough, Shalini helped me to her car, took me to Target to get the pain medication I was finally prescribed, which I actually ended up never taking, along with Tylenol, which I definitely took a lot of, and other items they said would help, ice, compression, and such, and took me home. She also bought me food and coffee and everything I could possibly need for the next several days while I tried to stay off my leg. She is my absolute hero. I was supposed to feel the healing impact within a month or so. When I went in for my checkup, the injection had not worked. The doctor said to call back in another month and tell him if it was better yet. I called in a month and told him it was not. It was still the same. He said, "That doesn't make sense. It always works." And that was the end of his attempt to help me. No follow-up, no new suggestions, but a firm belief on his part that my leg would heal. Where have I heard that before? To say this situation had become discouraging at this point would be an understatement. I was probably a year and a half to 2 years in. I had lost martial arts and my connections with that community, gained 40 pounds, and was struggling to find some sort of physical outlet. It was taking a toll on me mentally as well. Nobody had any answers. Many of them just gave up on me. The constant chorus seemed to be, "Weird, it should be better," followed by those medical professionals moving on and leaving me to wonder. After the failed injection and the end of physical therapy, I basically decided to give up. I decided to continue doing the exercises I'd been assigned at PT, but other than that, I just figured I'd better learn to accept this as part of my life. I began to look for forms of exercise that caused less pain than the ones I'd loved all my life, basketball and martial arts in particular. I just decided to live my life. When opportunities like hiking or pickup basketball came around, I'd just make a choice as to whether or not the pain was worth it. And most of the time, the answer was yes. I just learned to accept the pain and accommodate it. And I think my body learned how to adjust to my weak left leg as well. This went on for quite a while. It wasn't my favorite, but I learned to be okay with it. My family and close friends, on the other hand, were not ready to give up. After about a year, I reached back out to my second physical therapist, the one I saw for 5 months. I emailed him, explained what had been going on, and asked if he had any suggestions. He suggested I go to a place in Los Angeles, a bigger place than I thought necessary. He said he normally wouldn't send someone there unless their case was extreme, but in my case, my situation was so strange and long-lasting that he thought it would be wise to seek their opinion. So I called and called and called for months. So many messages, no answer, ever. I also took some suggestions to see a variety of other health professionals during this time. Chiropractors, laser therapy, sports therapy, some special dude in San Francisco who apparently works on professional athletes, although I just saw his assistant because my case isn't serious. I've seen so many people. While this was going on, a friend of mine randomly met a doctor who was newish to the area, a foot doctor. I don't believe in coincidence, by the way. She got his card and gave it to me, but I was over it again at this point, and I dragged my feet, no pun intended, about calling him. I decided I'd just deal with it. Then a mysterious new thing happened. After all these years of dealing with just my Achilles, now I developed a new issue. I don't know why. Once again, no origin story. But my foot basically decided to stop being able to pick itself all the way up or move to the side. So I started tripping on things sometimes, almost dragging it. I couldn't move it properly. It didn't hurt to try to move it, but it just actually wouldn't move. Not gonna lie, this kind of freaked me out. I decided I was definitely going to call this new guy now. So, on to another doctor, a podiatry specialist. This guy's cool. He listens, he wants to fix it, he noticed my lack of mobility and swelling again. I was a -3 out of 10 on some sort of mobility test. -3, not the best. He put me back in a boot. We named this one Darkness, as in hello Darkness, my old friend. This one was way taller and more annoying than the one years ago. I was in it for about a month and a half. During that time, I had another MRI. He wanted to see what the bump was. Finally, someone took me seriously about the dumb bump. Ultimately, I think he decided it was scar tissue, and no surprise here, he wanted me to go back to physical therapy, which was totally the right call, but I think I had lost faith in my leg being helped at this point. He said a couple of months of PT and we'd reevaluate. He said there was an option of him surgically removing the damaged part of my Achilles and reattaching the ends. It seemed extreme to me, but I was sort of ready for anything at this point. When it was time for him to write up the order for PT, he asked if I wanted to go back to the old place or to somewhere closer to my work. I opted for the place closer to my work. Something in my gut told me it was time for a change. Thank you, gut feeling. This new physical therapy place, and my physical therapist in particular, but really all of the people there, were and are an answer to prayer. I was so skeptical going back, but that all fell away quickly on my first visit. My new physical therapist is amazing. Funny, kind, brilliant, and just all around awesome. I could not have asked for anyone better, and I am grateful for her every day. That might sound dramatic to some of you, but remember, we're going on 4 years fighting this thing. Day 1, she assessed the situation with my foot and its inability to move. Ironically, she had had a similar experience recently. She was able to figure out what was going on, something about my leg not firing where it was supposed to, muscles, nerves, I wasn't sure at the time. But she started working. She started addressing my Achilles while focusing mainly on trying to get that foot working again. New exercise I hadn't done at other places, new techniques, and a new determination to figure out what is going on. This is the first time in this whole process that I felt like someone was actually committed to solving the puzzle, to figuring it out, to helping me get better. And she is honest. I asked her to shoot straight with me from the beginning, and she has. She doesn't tell me she thinks my Achilles will heal and be totally better. She's honest that it probably won't. And somehow that's comforting to me, because I feel like someone finally cares enough to tell me the truth. But I do think my foot movement has potential to get better, and I think she does too. It was getting better, actually. At one point, I could move it to a 90-degree angle. I know, I'm bragging here, which was huge. Things were going great until this COVID-19 situation got out of control. When I stopped being able to go in for appointments, my foot started losing all the progress we'd made. Though I will say, telehealth visits were some of my favorite moments in physical therapy. I just wasn't able to get what was necessary for continued progress in that format. So, by some miracle, she got me permission to come in. I am not an extreme case. I don't belong in there, but I am so very grateful. Right now, I'm at a place of holding my breath. I am almost out of approved visits. I have one more. She doesn't really think insurance will give us any more after this, which doesn't make sense to me since I definitely still can't move my foot, and PT is definitely helping. But it's insurance. When does it ever make sense? She has, however, suggested my doctor refer me to a neurologist. She thinks it's a nerve issue and wants me to be seen by someone who has the diagnostic tools to know whether that's the case. I am hoping the neurologist will order more PT. By the way, I wrote this before I saw the neurologist, but I actually saw him today. It is a nerve issue, and he did order more PT. Hopefully the insurance will approve it. Something was finally working. I do not want to think about what it will do to my spirit if I get cut off from the one thing that's finally working and the one person who is actually trying to solve this. So, this is where I stand currently. My Achilles is still messed up and painful. It may or may not always be that way. My foot doesn't move properly, but I believe that will be solved. I have the absolute best physical therapist in the whole world, and if you want to argue me on that, you can fight me. Kidding, not kidding. I am praying I will get to continue going to PT. I am holding on to hope that there will be a solution for me in the future. I don't know why all this happened. It has become a major part of my life. It has robbed me of many things I used to love. It has impacted my overall health. I still need to lose that weight. I believe it was a major contributing factor to my battle with depression last year, but that's another story. It has been difficult, but I absolutely refuse to focus on the negative. Because here's what else it has done. It has taught me to lean on others for help and support, and head holding, apparently. It has taught me to persevere. It has taught me to find new interests. It has given me compassion for those who suffer with chronic pain far worse than the mild issues I've had to deal with. It has given me a new topic of study. I know more than I let on. It has given me the opportunity to meet so many amazing people that I never would have met otherwise. And honestly, guys, that last one, the opportunity to meet these people, it makes it all worth it to me. And I mean that. I am a firm believer that when the Bible says that God works things together for good, that is truth. I may not always understand, but I believe. God is good. He loves me, and He loves you. He has a plan for my life. Right now, that plan involves these issues. But it also involves these amazing people and lessons. So I can rejoice. I can be grateful in all circumstances, and I can hold on to hope. Because the truth is, someday I will experience a healed body. And I will be more grateful on that day having gone through all of this than I would have otherwise. So it's okay. It's not always fun, but it's okay. And I am thankful for the lessons I'm learning along the way. And I pray maybe my story will inspire someone else to keep going and not give up. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this thing together. And in the end, everything will be okay. So that's the story up to this point. We'll have to wait to see what happens next. But for those of you who are wanting to know, there it is. And I really do mean what I say, that despite the fact that this has not been my favorite thing to happen, I really am grateful for everything it's led to, all of the people it's led me to meet, and all of the lessons I've learned because of it. Things that are difficult make us stronger. I love you all. I hope you're having an awesome day, and I'll see you soon.